one part of our income tax is dedicated to permanent improvements. So we'll call that number out so everybody is on the up and up. And then we'll go into the capital budget. So Dave, it's all you.
Okay, Rob, do you want to bring up the one that says monthly statement of cash receipts? There you go. That's it. We'll start with this one. The month of March was very uneventful. I don't have a lot to point out to you unless you want to ask questions. There are two things on this sheet that are worth noting. The general fund receipts looks very high compared to expenditures. The reason for that is the property tax is kind of front loaded. We get the first half year's property tax all in the first month or two. So that'll even out a little bit as we go through June. The other item to point out is in the water fund, the revenue or the receipts are very high, not typical. If you remember, we refinanced the bonds back in March for the water meters. We took in the money, about $895,000 from the bank for the bonds in March. We will pay that almost exactly that amount back in April. That'll go to the old bank when we redeem the old bonds. Okay. So that'll even out too. So it looks very positive right now, but you'll be seeing in the expenditure column in April a big number also. That'll even that out.
Okay.
What was the reason for delaying paying back the water bill bonds or the water meter bonds?
There's no delay. It's just how the schedule worked out. The receipts come in right at the end of the month of March, and the schedule to repay the old bank was like April 5th or something.
Oh, right. So it's not like end of April.
No.
It's a timing.
Timing.
Yeah, it's just a timing issue. Over the 2-month period, everything will be even. But right now it looks like we have a lot of money in the water fund. We really don't.
Okay.
And the only other thing on this page is if you look at the bottom left, the income tax and property tax are both very close to where we were last year. So at this point, so everything is in really good shape on this sheet.
Okay.
Do we have any concerns about by the taxes being pushed back, the delay in the taxes and not being the tax date April 15th?
No, even if there is some reduction, it'll be temporary and it won't be anything close to last year when we had some huge reductions and longer delays. They're only looking at a month delay. So we have no issue with cash flow. So whether we get the money in May or June really doesn't make much difference to us.
Dave, did I hear you say the income tax and the property tax are similar to last year? I don't see the number, but you said they're similar.
Right, I'm just telling you, I don't have that sheet.
Okay, good.
I have that on here, but if you look at the same sheet from a year ago, those numbers are very close.
I just want to make sure I heard you right.
Correct.
Okay.
The next sheet is the general fund report, giving a little detail on just the general fund. Everything here is in really good shape. After 3 months, we'd want to be at around 25% expended in every department. And the only one that's over really by much is the ambulance service. And the only reason for that is that it's a monthly payment and we've made 4 payments for that instead of 3. So we're just ahead of the game. We're not really over budget. And if you look at the bottom line, we're at 22.2% of our budget for the year. So we're in good shape.
Did we budget more in the previous year, Dave, for ambulance service just due to the pandemic and how much more?
No, it's a contract that's entered into before the year starts.
I believe it was a higher number this year than last year, right? It went up by cost of living.
Got it.
There was a percentage increase.
Right, I can get that number for you.
Buffer. Okay, no, I'm just kind of curious.
Okay, but it's a little bit higher this year, not much.
Which we won't see next year, okay.
And also, Darren, we in turn bill the person that's transported. And so it's really only a net difference that comes in. We get a good bit of that in billing. So
we get about 25% to a third of that back. So,
okay.
On billings.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
Any questions on this sheet? No. We can go to the revenue analysis sheet then. the one we began doing for the COVID
Yes. like it.
analysis. And everything here looks very good too. We're ahead of the game in income tax. If you see, you could do it month by month, but if you look at the far right column, the total, you can see that we're at $1,620,000 for the year after 4 months. This is for April, by the way, not the other two sheets were for March.
Okay.
We have updated numbers for April, except for the bottom two, the parking meter money. But anyway, through April for income tax, last year we were at $1,495,000. The year before that, we were at $1,548,000. So we're comfortably ahead of the last 2 years' collection through April.
That was a big number in February that we got.
Mhm.
Correct. Yeah, it was
Okay.
unusually large.
What, is there
Local
any
government,
idea,
oh, go ahead. What
is there any idea what caused that?
caused what?
The February increase, I mean, we're way up.
No, it's just typical collections. There's no one big item or unusual item that caused that. Again, with income tax, a lot of it's timing also.
Sure looks that way. If you look throughout the, the
Yeah.
rolling 12, you see variances all over the
Right,
place.
and things tend to even out over time. The good news is that through April, we're a little bit ahead of the last 2 or 3 years where we were.
Yeah.
Local government fund, we're also in good shape. We're about 8% ahead of last year at this point, and about 30% ahead of 2 years ago at this point.
Right. And so will that be adjusted in the second half of this year, depending on what the state biannual budget does with the LGF funding levels?
I have not gotten any information on that yet, so I don't know what the timing is
Okay.
on adjustments like that. I don't know what the lag time is.
Okay.
The
But 2
main
years
reason,
ago, they created that increase and they brought us back up a couple of percentages of the LGF. So,
right, until about 2 or 3 years ago, we were getting no money from the state, the
right.
local government, only the county. And they began giving us a little bit of money from the state also about 2 years ago.
Giving us money they
Most of-
should be giving us the whole time, but
Most
yes.
of it comes through the county, so I don't know what the state budget, that wouldn't have any immediate effect on that.
Okay.
Maybe next year. So.
If anybody wants to talk about the LGF, I'm always happy to talk about that. We can have that conversation offline.
Sounds like it.
Okay. And then gas tax is up because, they increased it a couple
That's
years
in good
ago.
shape too. Mhm.
And then, parking, we're just going to ignore those numbers.
Right, those are incomplete. Yeah, so anyway.
What is the gas tax per gallon? Isn't it like 50, is it 57 cents?
No, it's 13, well,
No, they raised it a little.
They raised
a
it.
few cents, but not
Yeah,
as
I
much.
think it's
as
13 or
one.
14 cents is the
13 or
state
14?
tax, Andrew.
Why am I thinking 58 cents for something?
Wow.
Per gallon. Maybe that was state of New York.
It could be.
Okay. Any
Okay.
questions on this one, guys?
Any questions?
Okay. Let's get on to the meat of it.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
And that was our finance committee meeting for,
And now we're going to
Did
start
it
the
in 2
thrilling capital budgets.
okay, let's dive in.
All right, this is, I'll just kick it off, but as I said in that memo, this is the same format that you've seen in years past, and this is the only thing that really matters. This is what we're planning to spend this year, 21. A good bit of this you've already looked at in the budget that we passed. There's some additional things here, and we're here to talk about all of that. Once we finish talking about 21, then we'll go to that 5-sheet Excel spreadsheet I put together and talk about I wanted to assure everyone that we're not taking on more debt than we can afford and pay off. So I took the debt payments out to 2030, and I put a cursory look of the what I consider, the gotta-dos for 22 and 23. And there's no real precision to the 22, 23 numbers, but just want to give you a preliminary look of where we're going. So with that, Rob and Tim will lead it off.
Thank you, Mayor. In front of you is our overall 2021 capital improvement plan. A lot of these projects or some of these projects are carryovers from last year. things you saw last year that we didn't engage in because of projects we held off on due to the COVID pandemic. So we reevaluated all those projects, updated our numbers. We looked at all the capital needs of the village and put together the street repaving program for this year. And we organized it a little differently this year, where we separated out our ongoing debt payments in this section. And then we had a couple deferred projects at the very end that are listed, or things that are upcoming, things that we've pushed back due to need of other prevailing projects. So I believe that if you look at the 23 major project categories, that what we're proposing for this year, it shows a very good array of projects that cover all the different areas of need in the village. We have streets, sidewalks, parks, cemeteries, storm sewers, sanitary sewer, other infrastructure. Pretty much the whole gamut is covered in what we're looking to propose. So I'll start and I'll kind of go through all of these in a quick fashion. If anybody has any questions on any of these projects, please let me know. And when we're done going through this list, I will then go to a separate sheet that has a breakdown of the streets that are proposed for the 2021 road program for the repaving. That's further broken down on that separate sheet. So on line 1 on the beginning, we have a carryover invoice from last year's road program that was paid after the deadline for bill payment under last year's budget. So $38,000 of last year carried over to this year. We're proposing on line 2 for the 2021 road program, an $810,000 program, which consists of outside money of $103,750. That includes the $75,000 donation for the Maple Center Alley Improvement Project. And the rest of that money is Cuyahoga County grant funds for material reimbursement for improvements made to county roads within the village. And I'll further break that down later when we talk about the road program. Line 3 is the 2020 sidewalk repair program. Again, a carryover final invoice that came in late in the year, $12,000. We're proposing our standard $30,000 for the 2021 sidewalk repair program. Item 5, the Arboretum Trail for the Vincent Street Arboretum. This is the project that we received that $65,000 NatureWorks grant for that. Also, I want to mention that the Ben King Memorial donation of $48,000 is included in the general fund dollar total for that project. So that $48,000 was donated several years ago when Ben King, our former Shade Tree Commission chairman, passed away. And we're going to be applying that money towards this project. Item 6, Bell Street Storm Outfall Erosion Repair. One of the outfalls for the storm sewer that leads down to the Chagrin River has some erosion along that. And we've had this on the list for a couple of years. It hasn't really shown a lot of extensive erosion in that time, but it is something we do want to address. So we have that on our list. Project 7 is our cemetery expansion project, and you'll see that's only $5,000. That's to continue with engineering and design and grant applications that CT is working with the village on for the cemetery stream daylighting project and expansion project towards the south end of the cemetery. Item 8 is the cemetery mausoleum conversion, phase 1 of 2. This is the mausoleum structure that's in Evergreen Hill Cemetery, and phase 1 consists of preparing that structure to be built out into columbariums in next year in phase 2. So we're going to be redoing the roof on that structure. We're going to be stabilizing the floor. We're going to be running some electrical to that structure and doing other repairs to it. And then next year, phase 2 will consist of proposing to build out columbariums inside and finishing it off and ready to start selling those niches to the public. Project 9 is the East Washington Street Improvement Project. As a sole elimination, this is closing out the project. This is the remaining dollars as of January 1st that we have yet to spend on the project. So we have in there that consists of $900,000 worth of storm and street work, and then $750,000 in sewer work. All of that will be covered under the small government fund grant and loan, as well as the EPA loan. That will cover that project. I do want to mention, I sent out a public notice at the end of the day today. We just received word late yesterday that the street paving of East Washington and the short section of Cleveland Street up to Bell, that work will be beginning this coming week. So more to come on that.
I do have a question about that. How much is the physical repaving portion costing out of this $900,000? How much is the physical act of the repaving? How much is Chagrin Valley paving getting paid?
I will have to, well, it's SCT we'd be paying, they're the general, and then they subcontract it out. I'll have to look at our cost breakdown to see the exact dollar amount. That 900,000 includes CT's inspection and engineering. It includes some storm sewer work. I'd have to see the exact amount of the paving breakdown, but I can get that out to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, and the next item, item 10, Grove Hill Park Design and Engineering, 7,500. That is to prepare plans and engineering for the build out of the new Grove Hill Park. The Grove Hill Park Commission will be meeting here shortly on site on the 28th to look at the site and the ideas for building that out in a very minimal way. And then we're hoping that next year we can start moving forward on that project. This year we hope to get the fence installed, which the village is contributing a small portion of that, or an $8,000 contribution out of our general fund. And then next year we would look at possibly a sitting area, a pathway and whatnot. Those items are still under consideration. Item 11, the historic district streets infrastructure televising and analysis. The whole historic district area of the village, the streets are starting to show a lot of deterioration. And as we started to look at the repaving needs, we also wanted to turn our attention to the undergrounds, utilities underneath. So we intend to televise and analyze our storm and sanitary sewer systems. Also, CT will be looking at the water distribution system, looking at the age and condition of all our water lines. We do know that quite a few of them are very old and undersized. We'll be looking at fire hydrant flows, and we'll be looking at making improvements and prioritizing upcoming work, making our way through the entire district and making those improvements.
Rob, we've included Olive and Hall Street too in the historic district.
Yes. Yep.
Rob,
Go ahead.
You have all this out of the general fund? You're not taking any out of water or sewer capital improvements?
We're looking at this as just overall planning for capital improvement in the area. We did.
Okay, you're not breaking it.
Yeah, we didn't want to show the hit to water and sewer right now because we don't know what we're going to find, but any construction or anything through that analysis would be charged to the water and sewer funds.
All right.
Line 12 is the Locust Lane culvert replacement. Right when you turn on Locust Lane off of North Main Street, there's a culvert that goes under the roadway. You'll see two guardrails on either side. That culvert's in declining condition and need a replacement. So this project will coincide with the overall stormwater watershed analysis that Tim is performing in the area, and the culvert will be sized accordingly with those recommendations. There's obviously there's a limit to the size that we can put in there, but we're looking to make sure that that's appropriately sized when we put in the new culvert, and it'll be a long-term, probably 30 to 50 year replacement cycle for that.
How long does that type of project take? Because that's obviously an arterial road for us.
Well, it's on Locust Street, not North
But
Main.
isn't it? Oh, it's not on North Main. It's across
On
Locust.
Locust Lane.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking it went across.
We're gonna have to handle that very expeditiously, because once that culvert comes out, before the new one comes in, all those residents are not going to be able to get their cars. So we're well aware of the planning problems that that's going to entail.
There will be a full plan, and it will be very well communicated, involving the input from the residents when we go to do that. We'll probably have a lot of materials staged on site, have everything well coordinated to have the minimal impact to the residents as possible.
So we're aiming for maybe fall then?
I don't know yet. That'll be part of our planning process with them. But it won't come up overnight, that's for sure. Item 13 is miscellaneous projects, engineering and planning. Every year, we have a host of projects that come up throughout the year where we have miscellaneous engineering and planning costs. So we have that line item to cover those sorts of projects. Item 14 is the police and fire station improvement project. We have a small sum in there to cover our grant applications, or not grant applications, our permit continuation with the state of Ohio, as well as any engineering changes to the plans to keep our permit applications valid for a future execution of that project.
What's the timing of that project?
We're gonna probably go out for bid again, Jim, sometime next year, but as you've probably anecdotally heard and read, the construction costs are over the moon right now. And the last time we went out to bid, it was, I think, 30 or 40% over the engineer's estimate or the architect's estimate. I'm sorry, I think we estimated it was like 900 and some thousand for the combined fire and police. And I believe the bids came in at like $1.5 million, $1.6 million. And so we went back, we've looked at what we could cut out of that. But then in the interim, construction costs are just, I mean, they're almost obscene what they are.
Okay.
We're kind of going back to square one.
So it won't be this year and it might not
Definitely
be
not this year. No question,
Okay.
not this year.
Okay, thank you.
Item 15 is the Riverside Park walkway replacement and improvements. That project we have budgeted $125,000, and that includes $100,000 that we're expecting from the state of Ohio direct appropriation grant. So we don't have the details on that grant yet, but it was in the appropriations at the state level for this year.
Yeah,
So
Rob, before you go on, Tim and I had talked about with that of bidding that with an alternative, and the alternative was to provide some rubberized surfaces for that playground area. Because number one, we're going to be moving the walkway, and the constant maintenance, trying to fill that with what do you call it, mulch, and
Yeah.
keep it usable. So we'll probably bid that with an alternative in. And I put that on my sheet that I had. You'll see an additional, I believe, $30,000, but that's just going to be an alternative that we can accept or not at the time.
Yeah, so tying into this, and I had made a slight mention of this in the Facilities and Services Committee a couple months ago. I've been contacted by a local family foundation who would like to help us as we, like, part of the path construction is going to be the realignment of the path, which would allow us to consolidate the swing play space along with the structured play space. And a family foundation has offered to donate the design services for a new play space to the village. If council's interested in pursuing this. And then I have residents who are ready to step up and raise money for the cost of a new play structure in Riverside Park. So coming out of this project, we would have a new path. We could have a rubberized surface, which will be much easier on our service department, and then updated equipment as well. Any thoughts? I haven't put together a donation agreement yet, but I will if council is supportive of the concept.
I think it's great, Aaron. I think it's really well done. I mean, we've got a lot of young families, and the maintenance on that space currently has got to be pretty significant, and it's generally in pretty bad shape. So an investment in the younger generation and those families, I think it's a great idea. And I think it's a great job getting some alternative funding in the form of donation and what we could fundraise. So I'll help wherever you need me, but I think it's a great idea.
Awesome.
I like the idea of tying it in with the improvements of the walkway and coordinating all that together.
Yeah, that's
Because
what
that
we
walkway
makes
is
most sense, Jim.
Yeah, that walkway is an
agreed.
eyesore.
Yeah.
Well, the
Totally
biggest, I think the biggest part of it to consider is the design and engineering portion of it. Because we kind of need to know what we're going to do with the playground. Even if something doesn't get done this year, we need to know for the walkway, because we don't want to put the walkway in and then have the designs for the playground and then find out we got to move the walkway. Or
Rocky, that walkway where we're moving it won't
Be out of the
be
way.
ever possible to be moved we're moving it right to the edge of where that steep embankment is that goes down to the river. And then
Okay.
so we're freeing up that whole area between the existing playground and where those benches are in the trees. So that won't impact any thing that we choose to do or not to do with the playground equipment.
Good, because it's, yeah, but you know, having a master plan of where everything's gonna go, it
Yeah,
can only help.
That's what Aaron is speaking about, developing the master plan. But I just wanted to, you know, reassure you, we're not putting the walkway anywhere near where you're going to be doing anything in the playground.
But it will be coordinated.
Yes, it would be
That's all
coordinated.
we need to hear. Yeah, got it.
Okay, so I will get together a donation agreement then and bring it to council, either probably the first meeting in May is my guess, for consideration. I'd be looking at having, we'd agree to the donation, we would select the designer, and then we'd work through the design process, including some public input. And then CT would manage the bid and construction process for us, since obviously they're used to working with us. And Tim's like, oh no, what am I just been signed up for?
I appreciate all the work you're doing on this, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's gonna be a great improvement to Riverside. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, back
Good
to
job.
you.
Thank you. Item 16 is the savings and loan bank building moved to the cemetery. That's the structure that's over on Hall Street that was looked to be moved over and become the office and meeting room for the cemetery down on the south side, very close to where the current maintenance building is on the other side of the driveway. Item 17 is a storm sewer line replacement between East Summit to East Cottage Streets. This actually runs on an easement area between some houses in that area. And it's old clay pipe that's in very poor condition. And then we're going to be replacing that as it causes a lot of sinkholes in the residents' yards.
Rob, is that next to the nanny dorms?
No, I think it's closer towards North Main.
I got it.
It's
know
in
it now.
It's in a few houses from North Main Street.
I know now. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Item 18 is the stormwater management planning village-wide, $75,000. That project is for Tim and CT to look at the overall stormwater topography of the area, look at possible solutions for solving some of our flooding and our surging during our heavy rainstorms that we've been having. The areas in particular included in the study included the Willow to Locust watershed area, possibly areas close to South Street, and then some village-wide modeling. So at the end, we can Tim can get into that more, unless Tim wants to explain a little bit more of that right now.
I think you're on a roll, Rob, so I
Okay.
keep running through, and I'd be happy to, even have a special meeting, talk about drainage, because that's a
Sure.
pretty big subject.
Okay.
Deep, steep.
Yep.
That's fine.
Item 19 is Triangle Park sidewalk replacement. This is the replacement of the old paver blocks with true brick. This is phase 3 of 4. And then we hope to wrap this project up in next year's capital plan. Item 20 is the Vincent Street Hillside Stabilization Study. I'm sure many of you have seen the area just off of Bell Street where we have some slope slippage and the guardrails bowed out. We're going to be doing some hillside analysis over there, looking at slope stabilization and proposing the construction of that to happen under next year's program.
Have we adjusted to make sure people don't park where we have the slight slippage? Just because it seems like parking there is probably not great. Like, have we moved this, do not park from here to corner back just to keep the area clear while we understand the situation?
I don't know that to be a problem, but I'll take a look at that tomorrow.
Well, when Federated's in church, like people park there on Sundays, so it might be better if they just didn't park on the concerned area of.
Parking there is at a premium because it's close to the front of the church, so.
Yeah.
We just put up a sign that says "Park at your own risk," or may not be here when you come back.
No, we
Park
can just
here,
have
but your car may not be here when you come back.
we'll just have a tow truck parked there.
Yeah.
That's heavy. Maybe just.
Your car
anyway,
will be a
food for
boat.
thought while we study.
We'll take a look at that. Item 21, Water Street utility improvements. You'll see in there we have some money listed for both water and sewer. We have a very old and declining water distribution line there that's over 100 years old. We've had several recent water breaks on that street. Also, there is a water transmission line that goes on the opposite side of the street that transmits all of our blended Cleveland and well water up to our water storage facility on East Washington Street. So we are planning to reconnect all of the homes to that transmission line and disconnect them from the old distribution line and improve the water service to those residents, the fire flows to the hydrants and whatnot. Also, we did do some televising on the sewer lines, and we're proposing $100,000 of spot repairs and some sealing of a couple areas that need to tighten up those lines. The street paving portion of that project is included in the road program. So there's no money listed right here, but that is included with the street program. This is the first street in the historic district where we hope to look at all the infrastructure and make improvements all at one time to everything going on. The road service is in very poor condition, and we feel that this is a really good move to kick that off in that whole neighborhood.
In addition, we've cameraed that sanitary sewer and found it to be actually in surprisingly good condition. There was one, the main connection to the sewer that goes down Maple Street is going to need to be excavated and a spot repair done to that. But we're doing all the underground before we resurface the road.
Could you back up, Rob, on the water street utility improvement? What section of the village is that focused on?
That's just Water Street. So
Water Street. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
Water
there's two.
Street.
Oh, all right.
From Washington to Maple.
There's two water lines on Water Street, Jim. There's the main transmission line and there's the old distribution line that goes back to 1900, 1904, whatever. And we're going to abandon that line and connect all the houses over to the transmission line, which is exactly what we did on East Washington Street this past year. So since I've been mayor in 5 years now, I think we've had 3 or 4 breaks on that very short stretch of line, which has resulted in a lot of inconvenience to the residents and expense to the village, because I know twice it broke in the middle of the night.
Well, that was my misreading of the line. I thought it was Water Street in general, like Water Street.
Oh, no.
I got it now. I got it.
No comma there.
Is there anything in the budget for the water line up on top of the hill on Chagrin Boulevard to the service connections on the east side?
Jim is looking at that. We may come back with an amendment to the budget. Right now, the back of Bar Napkin, it looks like we could connect those houses on the north side of the street over to the new line we put in for Addison Court for about $50,000. And that line broke twice in 1 week and is an undersized 4-inch line. So I'm pretty sure we're going to do that, but more to come back later. Right now, all we've got to back a Bar Napkin. We're talking around $50,000, which you'll see would be affordable.
Okay.
Are those residents already tied in, or are they new?
They're tied into the old line, Rocky. What you got is the same thing I said before, 2 lines going down the street, and they're tied into the old line. The houses on the south side of the street are tied into the new line. And it looks like we could bore underneath the roadway so we wouldn't have to dig up the whole roadway, because we and Moreland Hills are jointly applying to the county to have the county resurface that whole road next year, which of course is in dreadful shape. So hopefully we could get that all done at once.
So
If anybody's interested, the water department kept a section, about 2-3 foot section of that 4-inch line that they dug out. And it really motivates you to want to find that $50,000 because
It absolutely does, Jim. I mean, I've got some pictures of some of the other lines when they broke. I'll be happy to share with everybody, and you go, oh my God. And plus the other thing is, if we ever really did get a multi-structure fire going on these streets, these lines aren't anywhere near adequate for firefighting.
No, yeah, okay. I just wondered if it was in the works.
Yeah,
You've
it's in
answered
the
my
works.
question.
Well, all I was wondering is if there was going to be a tie-in. Are we adding new houses? But these people are already on our water, so that it's just going to come out of the water.
And just so everybody knows, the fire department is well aware of the flow capabilities on these restricted lines, and there are plans to address that. So if there is a fire in any of those areas, it's not like it's going to be a surprise. It will be dealt with appropriately.
Don't freak out, everybody.
Good,
Yeah.
we know. Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, item 22, the wing wall refurbishment. This is for plans and engineering. Anything that might come up to continue and extend those plans and approvals as that project moves along. That is pushed back till next year, maybe in even 2023, depending on how the bridge project through the county is executed. So more to come on that. Then the final item 23, is the wastewater treatment plant phase 1 project construction, which will be starting next week. I'm proud to report. That includes that project, as well as the engineering and design of phase 2 and 3, which will be combined. We're going to be working on that this year as well. So that winds down or closes out all of our project listings here. The debt payments shown here are part of past projects where the debt schedule is executed out through this year, and it shows where all those items are charged. And then our deferred projects.
More on that when we get to the Excel spreadsheet after we're done talking about the road program and stuff this year.
Yep. And then after all of our projects as planned are performed this year, our year-end projected balances at the end of the year are within our normal means. You might see the water and sewer levels are, seem fairly low when you look at the number, but that is out of the capital improvement areas of those two accounts. So normally we transfer water and sewer money from the operating funds to the capital to cover any projected capital costs. So those are all.
And also, just so everybody, to refresh everybody's memory, the auditors in the state of Ohio consider them all one. There's not 2 water funds and 2 sewer funds. There's just one water and 1 sewer fund. So they're consolidated when the auditors look at them.
Rob, I know this is a question you probably can't answer, but I got to ask it anyway. Just due to the skyrocketing cost of materials, just seems like all materials, steel, concrete, all the things you need to do these projects. Are you comfortable with these budgets and the things that we want to do? Because it seems like unprecedented times for just acquiring material.
Sure, I think we're very comfortable with the numbers proposed. Tim and I worked extensively in planning and reviewing these projects. We do have some flexibility built into those numbers as well. If we really run into trouble for some weird reason, we'll have to prioritize on what we're actually going to move forward with. But I'm starting to hear a little bit of talk through the industry that some of the paving numbers are very favorable right now. So I'm finding that some materials are more reasonable than normal, and other materials are, as you said, quite escalated. So,
Darren, I think that's going to directly affect, what I forget who asked me about the police and fire station. I think there have been 30% increases in construction steel so far this year. I mean, they're just obscene increases in cost.
a lot of our projects are related to road and surface type materials. Obviously, we do have some structural when it comes to the treatment plant. The construction of that, those costs have already been secured. So we're not building anything too much. So I'm hoping that we can keep our costs in line with general paving type materials.
Yeah, and asphalt costs are not way up, but some of the base material costs and things like that are.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Rob, can you go back to your first page real quick?
Oh, sure.
I want to point out one thing before you move on.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Can you go down to the revenue section? I just want everybody to notice that line 2, other than the grant and our loans and grants that we've gotten, thanks to Tim and CT, the main source of revenue for these projects is our income tax that we dedicate just to capital improvement. And that is the $1 million number right there.
And that's mostly coming from the 2017 increase.
Correct. The increase, the 0.35% increase that we put in that year.
Thank you. I
Well, that's
appreciate
what
it.
allows us to do the things that are
Right.
necessary.
Right.
And you're saying it's $1 million. It used to be about 750, 800.
In year one, it was about 750 and it's gone up ever since, right?
Wow, it's
So
good.
we've done
Wow,
really
that's
well.
excellent.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now I'll go to our final sheet, which is the breakdown of the 2021 road program. Just get that maximized on our screen here.
That's good, Rob.
Okay, so what we're hoping to do this year is we want to make curb, gutter, and sidewalk repair to Bell Street. We have $80,000 in the budget for that.
We thought that would put a smile on your face, Angie.
I
That's why
know.
we put it number one.
Okay.
Most of the pavement's in pretty good shape up there,
It
but
is.
if you drive up there, you can clearly see the curb, gutter, and sidewalk areas that are very much in need of repair.
Well, I know that several years back we did half and then we stopped because
Yeah.
of budget constraints. And so my neighbors up at the end where it stopped will be very pleased that we remembered the other half. So thank you. Okay. Okay.
What's our
Yeah.
timing on this? Will it be done after East Washington?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But you don't think we ought to do everything at once, Aaron?
You know,
We're gonna start everything
I'm gonna
at
give them
once.
your
And
number.
we're gonna publish your cell phone number on
Right.
the road sign right there.
We'll all leave town. We're all going to leave
This
town that week.
project has been brought to you by Aaron Group.
I'm going to
Right.
forward
So
those
rip the
calls to
Band-Aid
your
off.
cell phone or Friday's cell phone.
We're gonna just hang out in their house for a month. It'll be fine.
The East
Rip off the
Washington
Band-Aid.
and Cleveland Street project is planned to be done before Memorial Day. So the week ending in May 28th. So we won't even have everything out to bid or completed as far as a contract for this project before then. So there will be good separation.
Absolutely sure. Thank you.
We have in there Chagrin Boulevard large area repair. As we know, that road's in deteriorating condition. We are still requesting funding, and next year we will be pursuing funding along with Moreland Hills to repave the street. But in the meantime, we have $28,500 planned of some large area repairs to help hold it together and keep the potholes in check. We are expecting $16,500 in material reimbursement money from the county that they awarded us. So that'll help offset that cost to us. West Summit Street, that street leading from Chagrin Boulevard up to North Main, that is in deteriorating condition, has some stormwater concerns up there. So we are planning a full repaving, some repairs of the inlet basins, and then some stormwater management controls for a sum of $234,500. East Summit Street, the other side of Summit, we have some curb repair and some base repair planned for $26,150. And included with that is $12,250 of planned money from Cuyahoga County for material reimbursement. West Orange Street, large area repair that goes hand in hand with Chagrin Boulevard. We're planning an additional $28,250 there. We are looking at Northwoods road repair. We're not going to be doing Sole Other Lane. That has to be struck from the list due to financial constraints, but we are going to be repaving the 3 streets in the Northwoods development for about $100,000. We are looking at large area repair on Walnut Street. That'll just be a couple spot areas of the worst to hold us together until we can look at all of the underground utilities and come up with a full repaving plan at a future date. And we're also going to be repaving the south service driveway of the service department that's in deteriorating condition. Also included in that is a small strip of deteriorated pavement in the River Run parking lot toward the back. We're going to be fixing that up and making that area a lot more acceptable. We have in here Maple to Center Alley reconstruction. This project was presented to the Streets and Sidewalks Committee a week or so ago. That's a $150,000 project. And with that, we have a pledged donation of 50% or $75,000 towards that project. And that's removal of the existing deteriorated asphalt, an installation of a pervious brick surface with concrete curbed edges and an underground stormwater management system, as well as lowering the apron of the road as it comes down to Maple Street for easier ingress and egress. That project is also going to be a pilot project for the stormwater system that we hope to implement in other areas and other infrastructure in the village.
We believe we've partnered with Ohio State to monitor
say that.
that. So we should have actual empirical data how well the stormwater performs before we launch in on trying to duplicate this solution in other parts. So we're not going to duplicate it until we know it works and to what degree it works.
And then the final item is the paving portion of the Water Street Improvement Project. Included with that is some stormwater repair of the inlets and castings and things like that. That's an additional 100,000. So that rounds out our road program at 810,000. And then we're expecting the outside funding of 103,750. So the overall net cost to the village is about 707,000. And that's our capital plan. Does anybody have any further questions on either the overall plan or the road program?
No, I think it's very inclusive. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
That's
we're
good, Rob.
really investing in the village infrastructure. And, we're going to be, at the end, I can see some light at the end of the tunnel, probably a little after, all of us are probably off of our current positions, but certainly within the forecastable future, the village ought to be in shape for the next 50 to 75 years. We've really done a good job.
It's going to take 10 years to get there.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly what I'm saying.
It'll never be done.
No, I mean, it's
Keep going until it's, because by the time we get all the way through, we'll have to start something new.
yeah, I refer to that as our modern cleaning of the Aegean stables. And, none of us are Hercules.
No.
But there was a time not that long ago when we had a street improvement program that kept up on a 5-year rotation, and it was
Jim,
very
you're going to
cost
see that
effective.
when we get to the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have to get back to the point that that's a feasible opportunity, because some of these roads.
I think that's what you're going to see in a second, Rocky. What we've got. So, Rob, if you could put up the Excel spreadsheet and start with sheet number 1. There you go. And we talk about this payment and that payment, but as far as I know, nobody had ever really sat down and scheduled out these payments, when things are done being paid off, etc. So sheet 1 of this isn't anything prospective except for the very last line, which I footnoted. I'll talk that in a second. All of this stuff's already been done. This is debt and borrowings that we've made. And starting with the January 1 balance, I've shown you the interest rate, and you can see that we have a clear weighted cost of capital that's a negative real rate. So we're under the rate of inflation. And then I've scheduled out the payments really over the next 10 years to 2030, and showing you where we are. And as you can see, when you start getting into the mid 20s and late 20s, these payments really start falling off rather dramatically. And almost all of the payments really are related to the wastewater and water system. So what we've got is, that the 2017 capital improvement debt will be paid off in 26. And that, to refresh everybody's memory, is what we use to do Walters Road, do the Surjet, which we use almost every day, and do the leaf collection system, which, I believe is already paid for itself. And then the water meter refinancing, the one that we just refinanced, and that's supported by the meter fee as opposed to overall tax revenue. And we've gone into some detail, which I'll get into later, showing that fee, the $3 fee, based on, current pricing, is going to be more than enough to pay off the debt and to replace the meters that we still have to replace. So I don't anticipate any increases there. And you can see that, again, when we get out 2 or 3 years, things start to get a lot better. And as I said, the high point of the debt is in 24, and it falls off by almost 20% by 27. So I think we're in good shape. So then, Rob, if you go to sheet 2. Sheet 2, all of these numbers on sheet 2 are from sheet 1. And what I did is I broke that debt into the various components of where they get paid for, because as you just again to refresh your memory, we can't take utilities funds to the general fund. We can take general fund to the various utilities fund, but we can't use wastewater to cover water, and we can't use water to cover wastewater. So they've got to be segregated. One thing, and you don't need to go back, Rob, but in sheet 1, there's a very large number for wastewater that was projective. It wasn't actual. And since we haven't incurred that debt yet, we obviously don't know what that debt's going to cost in terms of rates. So current borrowings from the EPA are underneath 1%. I used 2.5% on that, which I felt was a fairly conservative estimate of what it might be when we go to borrow. And again, who knows is the shortest answer, but that is a pure assumption on my part. And you can see that down in the wastewater line, the last item in wastewater, 2022 wastewater treatment plant, and it's footnoted, that's a pure swag, and that comes from the 2.5% rate. But again, you can see that the general fund will be nearly debt-free by the mid-20s, and the water fund is largely, just that water borrowings for the meters, which is paid for by the meters, but is rather consistent and I think conservative. We're not having any real issues there. And again, with the difference of that $6 million borrowing in 22, again, all projections, everything seems to be quite, doable. And again, I call your attention to the fact that all the debt is related to the utilities, and it's all what I feel is affordable. So Rob, if you go to sheet 3. All right, so this now, I started to try to come with some numbers here on these 3 funds, and looking at what the income would be. And as Dave said, we allocate to the general fund, and I kept relatively the same amount. $1 million is an opening allocation to the general fund, which, Jim, is what you commented on before. And I've increased that by 2% each year, 2.5%. I don't remember what it was, whatever it works out to. That I've put some known capital expenditures, which again we'll get to in a minute. Made that subtraction, made the subtraction of the debt, which comes from page 2, and came to a positive number. Indicates that we have more cash than we've got expenses at this point. And then Jim, to your point, if you notice down there, the next line, we're spending around $700,000 net to the village this year. Wait, Rob, back there, right here. Oh, I keep wanting to point, and I realize you can't see me pointing. You see $700,000 for the road program. That's the same 700 that was on Rob's sheet before. And again,
Right.
I just used total numbers. But you can see, and I went over that with Tim in quite some detail, and he feels that 500,000 in terms of today's dollars is what we need to spend on the on the road program. And I increased that. I think I used 3% for next year and the following year, and then 2.5%, and then 2%. So I do think we're gonna be getting inflation, and they'll probably do something to draw it down. And again, the expenditures is just the same number because that was what Tim told me to estimate for maintenance of the roads on the ongoing problem. And moving down to the water fund, again, I did not increase any water rates in this. As you can see, the $1,992,000 is constant throughout. And the operating expense net of the debt is the current number, the 1,000,004, and I believe I increased it by 3 or 3.5% next year, and the same in 23, and then went on. I think that's exactly what I did. If you've got all of these have this sheet, if you just click on that cell, it'll tell you what the ratio of inflation I used was. And then you got the debt service, which comes from sheet 2, which we previously talked. And you've got the operating cash flow, and then known capital expenditures, which I don't know of any capital expenditures right now as we sit for 22. So I left that line blank. But you can see before you get into capital expenditures in the future, our water system is projected to be cash flow positive. And that's a very good thing. I'm not proposing any increases. If my inflationary increases are too robust, in other words, if costs go up by 6% instead of 3%, then of course, this is NA. And then moving down to the sewer fund, I did the same thing. We do have some sewer increases that we passed, but not yet implemented. So I used those on the revenue line. And I used the transfer in of the general fund that we're making for that incremental gas tax of $125,000, and that's done to hold down the sewer rates. I added the operating expenses the same as I did on the water with an inflation, and I took the debt service in, and you can see we built some cash here in the beginning before we start drawing it down with the debt service. And we're not in any real trouble on the revenue side until we get out to 29 or 30, which is effectively 10 years from now. And again, my assumptions as to inflation probably don't hold for a 10-year period. So, I don't think it's going to be to the end of this decade that we need to look at rate increases, provided inflation doesn't get off the chart. One thing that I did provide, which is a little bit different, is in looking at the American Water Association recommendations. They said that you should maintain a 3-month balance of operating expenses in cash, and that's for stuff that's just because. And we are underneath that, but we've never met that. I put that in largely as a reference point. So could we use some additional expense, additional revenue in water in some of the out years? Yeah, we could use it. Do we need it to operate the system? Probably not, provided we don't have any disasters. And if we do have a disaster, we have plenty of borrowing capacity. We could borrow to meet the disaster until rates could be raised. So I think we're in actually very good shape, even taking in consideration the debt payments. Robert, you go to sheet 4. Could you give me the heading at the top? Sheet 4. Yeah. All right. So sheet 4, then that first column in 21 is the numbers you heard before, with the addition of the $30,000 rubberized surface, which will be an addendum to that. And then I took a quick look, and again, this is just my, Rob, and Tim's opinion, and Glenn and John's too. some of the quick things that we'd look at in 22 and 23. And obviously, we're not asking for any approval in the 22 and 23 numbers. But, you know, the police station renovation, this would be the police, our responsibility for that cost, which we're estimating at 800,000. It's roughly a 50 split with the fire department. And we anticipate some repayment of funds from Debbie, which I showed as a minus number. And open airing the stream has to do with replacing that currently failing culvert, as well as expanding future grave sites. And then it come down to sidewalks. You know, we'll want to spend around 40,000 a year on sidewalks, and it's similar to what we're spending $500,000 on the road program. Move the savings and loan building to the cemetery when everything is said and done, and that includes, you know, repainting it, putting it into shape where you can use it as an office and a meeting room with family. It's going to be about $100,000. I just put the other half of it in 22. The Triangle Park phase, again, you got 40,000. Mausoleum, that's the guts of the mausoleum that goes inside of it. And that's around 110 when we looked. And then down below, you've got the road program. And out in 23, the only thing that I know of right now is the wing walls. And we've got state grants, county grants, and we need to replace the stairway to the falls on the south side of the river. And I encourage you, before the leaves go out, to all go up and walk down that set of stairs, and turn, once you get down to the first landing, turn around and look at the condition of the hillside up against the popcorn shop. That's what that hill stabilization is. We feel we need to put in something that amounts to like a terrace system, so we don't lose that, and revegetate it. So we've got some significant expenditures there, and there again, we got the road program, and I don't have any idea what we're going to need to do there. But the one thing that we're going to have to face at some point, and at some point I would say it's 22 or 23, is what we're going to do about the salt building. The administration has a location in mind that I think alleviates almost everybody's concern, and that is regarding the scale of that structure, what it would look like from the road, what it would appear, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have a site, and what we don't have is a finalized design or anything approaching an engineer's estimate. But I would think, and this is just my own personal opinion, you're talking somewhere in the $500,000 range. So it's going to be a big number. But if it falls into 22 or 23, I don't think we ought to push it much beyond one of those 2 years. So, and it will give us some significant savings and get the EPA off our backs, because part of doing the salt building would be providing a lean-to take the dumpsters under cover, so the rain doesn't get in them. And that's something the EPA has been writing us up for a number of years now. So I mentioned that, and I put it on this list, even though it doesn't have a dollar amount, just so everybody keeps it in their mind that it hasn't gone away. So,
it has to get done.
yeah, and then if you go to sheet 4,
That salt
sheet 5,
building is one.
sheet 5, I'm sorry, Rob. Yeah,
that
there
salt
again,
building is one to get to the wall.
you just see the same regurgitation of the road program, and this is where we're spending the money in 21. Give you the first count on 22 and 23. Some of the things that we know we need to do, and try to make you all comfortable that this is all affordable, and we're not taking on debt that we're going to leave the next administration and the administrations that follow handicapped by what we're doing. I think we're all well within the affordable range. So with that, I just turn it over to the open discussion.
That's
Go ahead,
the
Andrew.
salt building's got to get done. It's like one bad hit from falling over, and it's horrible.
I'm sorry, what was that, Rocky?
I was saying the salt building has to get done. It's one bad hit with a front end loader from fall.
Yeah, that's why I said, I don't think we ought to even think about pushing it beyond 22, 23. It's not in bad, it's not, I shouldn't say that, it'll probably collapse tonight. But
Exactly.
You know, we don't think there's a problem getting through this year, and we have an emergency plan should that happen, but I wouldn't feel comfortable pushing it beyond 22 or 23 at the furthest.
Well, and environmentally, it's got some issues too. So I'm glad the new design will solve some of those environmental concerns we have with it and provide the interior loading. And
I think we've locked in on a good site, and anybody that wants to go down there, I'll be happy to take them down and show you in detail. We don't have any engineering drawings. We don't have any renderings that I can show you, but just show you the concept on the ground. And I think we should take 21 and lock in on number one, a design of the building, and number two, get some engineering on drawings and get some cost estimates to either go out to bid in 22 or 23. You know, with capital budgets, I'm reluctant to go too many years out in the future, other than to tell you that it's something that's going to need to be done, and about what year I think is the latest we can do it. Because who knows what's going to happen? I mean, you know, we could have a tornado go through town, and you know, we've just wasted the night because we got a whole new set of priorities.
Mayor, I like your time frame for the salt storage facility. It's been something I've been bringing up since 2010, 2012.
Yeah.
And I really would like to see us get started on it this year with some preliminary work and hopefully budget next year. Maybe not install it, but get it budgeted so we.
Yeah, and you know, Jim, we may, and I emphasize the word may because we haven't drawn any engineering, we haven't even got a locked in design. Maybe it's the sort of thing that we can do over a 2-year period. We do the foundation, we do some of the site prep work 1 year, and then we do the actual construction the next year. Because as Darren's pointed out, we're all extremely gun shy on what construction costs are right now. I mean, it's literally almost obscene.
Have you considered selling corporate logos on the roof?
Well, Jim, what's your company's name? I'll make a deal with you.
Exactly. There you go.
And my donation won't amount to anything. Hey,
Yeah.
I want,
Rob,
if I may, get off the salt garage. I want to go to sidewalks for a minute. We budgeted 40,000. I guess my first question is, do we typically spend that amount each year, or does somebody?
We typically do. We've been spending a lot of the sidewalk budget on Triangle Park and a few of those other areas as opposed to the sidewalks in the residential areas. But
Okay.
yes, we do.
I guess my question is, how do we decide the residential sidewalk improvements, and how can we maybe up that number a little bit or get more bang for the buck and get more sidewalks in? I think we're letting that slide behind too much. I'd like to see it.
I think you're right, and I've been in conversation with Rob and John about that very issue. It's just that, you know, there's so much had been deferred, Jim, for a period of time that, you know, I feel like this is really sort of the year that I could honestly say we're caught up, that we're not catching up with stuff that had been let slide in the past. And I do feel that we're at the precipice of where we can start planning instead of trying to catch up with stuff, because we got a lot of catch up.
Yeah.
And I say,
Go ahead, Rob. Yeah.
I can say that we have been making a lot of improvement in the last few years, making a lot of headway. We've been trying to concentrate on the main routes that children walk to get to schools, the East Washington corridor, some of the feeder streets there. This year, we're going to concentrate on Maple Street. We have some very bad sections there. So we are analyzing and looking where we can best apply that money and making the greatest amount of good to where the people are walking. And we're working our way into the neighborhoods. I know when we did the Bellevue and Bradley area, we looked at all of the sidewalks in that entire area and we improved those at the same time we paved the street and made the curb improvements.
Will we do that with Water Street too this year?
We will do that also, yes, because we like to look at all infrastructure in the right of way when we make an improvement like that, and sidewalks are part of that.
There's
Is
some,
there
You know,
any-
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Aaron.
Is there a
Karen?
consideration for places that just flat out don't have sidewalks?
That's the same question
in
I
term-
had. Thank you,
I think
Darren.
Carriage Stone's just got a lot of houses with a lot of kids, and that's not the only neighborhood. And I just think like we're spending money repairing sidewalks, which we need to do, but I'm thinking about the places where we just flat out don't have them.
Darren, what we approached that Carriage Stone Monticello street several years in the past. I think the most recent was probably 10 years ago. And the survey came back that the people didn't want to do any of the assessment for the sidewalk cost and didn't want it. You know, I'm well aware of that. Now, there probably are two real priority areas. The people on Miles Road wanted sidewalks, and the people on East Orange Street, the old Chagrin Boulevard, they've also wanted it. Now, the county has the replacement of the Miles Road Bridge, the one that's right near Solon Road, on their list of projects to get funded if the federal infrastructure budget passes. So that hasn't been done, not for want of money or anything else, but that bridge doesn't accommodate a sidewalk. I mean, any type of sidewalk,
Right.
and you'd be building in a tremendous safety hazard to encourage people to walk on that until that gets done. But once that gets done, we could look at that. But again, what we do and what we've done always is we send a letter out to the residents asking if they want the sidewalks, telling them approximately what it would cost them. Now, the people on Walters Road wanted to do that. And just to refresh everybody's memory, we assess the homeowner the cost of laying a sidewalk on level, flat ground. Any cost that's over and above the level, flat ground, namely if they need a retaining wall, hills have to be graded, trees have to be moved, etc., the village picks up. So it's a shared cost, and we do offer the ability to pay that off over, I forget what we offered the Walters Road people. It was
10 years.
And Hickory.
10 years. That would be the same offer. So, you know, I'm certainly not opposed to doing that. I just know that Carriage Stone and Monticello was asked at least twice, and at least twice they declined.
That was
You know,
probably, if that was 10 years ago, I don't
Yeah,
know,
right.
probably
There's
a lot
two
of
people moving
turnover
in.
in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
I
right,
think
agree.
this conversation, we need to kind of have a way of prioritizing sidewalks. And I also would like to see the sidewalk fund used on streets that aren't major capital improvement funds. In other words, they're more used in residential neighborhoods where the road's not being torn up and it needs a new sidewalk.
Yeah, I've talked to the engineer, Jim, about that issue on Summit Street. On East Summit Street, what we're going to try to do is by shifting the road within the right-of-way, try to free up what will be a 18 to 24-inch path that we could stripe off on one side of the road for walking or biking. But on the north side of the road, the roadway is, believe it or not, I didn't believe it till I went up there and walked it. The road itself, the asphalt, is no more than a foot away from the telephone poles. There's no tree lawn, there's no curb, there's no nothing. So there's no ability to expand the road to the north. So it has to be expanded to the south. And Tim, Craig Course, myself, Rob, John, we all walked that from you know, the whole length of it. And it appears that we can do something on their stormwater in a similar approach to what we did in Greenbrier, Greenhaven, which does work. And it appears that we can maybe widen the road to get enough of a walking path like there is on North Main Street, which, you know, seems to be adequate and safe. So we're looking at that. And I asked Tim to also look at West Summit as to what we could we could do it.
Well, wait, I think you got the streets mixed up. I think you're referring to West Summit in your previous.
I am, Jim. I'm sorry, Jim. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're right.
That's all right. That's all right. I think there's a lot of pedestrians that are at risk on some streets. They're heavily used by pedestrians, and I think those should be a priority. I like the idea of assessing property owners maybe half the cost or something to extend to 40,000 and have it be something where the majority of the residents agree to it and we get it done.
I think it would have to be a delta to the 40,000 because a lot of these sidewalks, again, because nobody really did anything to the sidewalks for quite some time. Some of them are in really deplorable condition and they need to be, fixed.
Well, that's kind of, we need to have this conversation on streets and sidewalks.
Yes.
There's areas where there's areas where there's no sidewalks and there's areas where you have trip and fall sidewalks. So what's our priority? Do we?
I hear you, Jim. Hold on a second. Angie, go ahead.
Okay, I just have two questions on sidewalks, and I know we don't want to get sidetracked, but one is when a while ago when I was working with Safe Routes, and when Ben Himes was in the CIO position, there was a priority list of the next 10 places that would get new sidewalks. Does that exist in-house at this time, or was that process discontinued?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I'm not aware of that either, Angie.
Okay, I have it. I can send it to you. Granted, it's an old list.
I think that's really a conversation for Streets and Sidewalks Committee.
Okay.
I agree.
We agree. I mean, I think trip and fall sidewalks have to take precedent.
Absolutely, for
And
maintenance.
then we could look at the other areas and some things are out of our control. Like I said, on Miles Road, there's no point doing anything until, they get the bridge replaced and you can safely transact that.
And then my second thing, which I guess we can take into streets and sidewalks, is I think we need to have a process by which residents on streets know what the process is to request a new sidewalk and begin that process with the village, because we usually do it when we have street work. But a lot of times residents are just coming to us as council members or people and saying, hey, what do I do to get a sidewalk? So if we could just kind of figure out how that works so that we can tell residents what we want to see from them, it might help them go about the process of talking to their neighbors and maybe, get this done where we can get it
I'm
done.
saying the same thing. I agree.
The administration isn't opposed to that.
No,
Okay,
that's great.
Angie, can you send that list?
I'll
Just
send it
out
around.
Send
Yeah,
it
I'll
out
send
to
it
all
to
council. I'll call Jan and ask her to hold a streets and sidewalks
That sounds
meeting
good.
and start looking at how we can prioritize what that decision matrix would look like.
Sure.
And then maybe being proactive and starting to do some surveys and figure out where we need to focus. So that way the administration has those plans before they go into the budget cycle for consideration.
That'd be great.
Excellent. Excellent.
One other question about this. Have we posed assessing the members on West Orange or Chagrin Boulevard with the information that there's roads going to get repaved, hopefully by the county? I mean, it would seem like a perfect time to try to do it all.
Well, yeah, once we know, but we'll submit that application to the county, I think sometime this summer, and we won't know if it's been selected until towards the end of this year. So, I think there's a danger of getting people's hopes up before you really know. We do think that that's a fairly high priority, given it'd be a joint application by Moreland Hills, Chagrin, and perhaps Pepper Pike or Orange up there by their school, because that road hasn't been done since the early 90s when the state turned it over to us. So it's approaching 30 years.
Rocky, you talking about sidewalks or resurfacing?
Yeah, I mean, once we get the permission, once we know the county is going to do the road, I think that's a good point for us to approach the homeowners about assessing the sidewalk and adding it to that, because getting it all done at a relatively similar time may be the route to go.
Well, yeah, but you got to be careful with that site because there's not a lot of room on either side. There's guardrails. It would be very tight to do it on the Orange and and Sugar Boulevard intersection there, or
Okay, so let's send this conversation to streets and sidewalks to sort of delve into.
yeah, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
fun to be continued.
All right, well, that's where we are, guys. And, you know, I think, you know, you should take great comfort in the fact that it looks like we can do all the known stuff with the existing revenue, assuming things don't go bump in the night or inflation doesn't go crazy. But, you know, to a degree, our income stream is indexed to inflation too, since we're largely dependent upon the income tax. So to the extent expenses go up, the income tax should go up in somewhat similar manner. So as long as we don't go crazy on the expense side, I think we're in good shape.
I think we're in very good shape. That's a lot of projects, a lot of improvements.
Yeah,
Mary, you've done an excellent job with the infrastructure in this community.
Agreed. A lot of hard work on this budget as well. So thank you.
Yeah.
Tim, too.
Well, and this
Rob.
is something that we should update every year. You know, continuing with Rob's sheet and then updating the rolling projections of where we are, because you know your existing debt obligations are awful easy to forget about.
So true. No,
All
thank
right.
you very much. It was great presentation. I love the long range planning. I really feel like we have a good grasp on what's going on, and it's always just a good comfort to me to go over this stuff because I know you guys have it all. You know, you know exactly what's going on, so that's great.
Well, thank you. We've really, all of us, including council, worked hard on this.
awesome. Okay, well then, are there any other questions that we want to go through before I say the fateful words?
I think we're all about done here.
Amen. We'll adjourn at 8:22. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good
Okay,
night.
thank you.
Thank
night.
you, everybody.
Thank